Good evening. My name is Margaret Holm. I am with First Things First Okanagan. We are a nonprofit volunteer climate action organization. I'm joined by fellow board members tonight, Lori Goldman, she is manning the Zoom controls, and Sue Kirschman will be introducing tonight's speakers. Deep Dive is a monthly online webinar where we explore different perspectives on climate solutions for our communities. First Things First comes to you from the traditional unceded territory of the Syilx and Similkameen nations. And here in the Okanagan, our communities, the wildlife, the waters, the lands of the Okanagan, they benefit tremendously from the work of Similkameen and Syilx communities and the Okanagan Nation Alliance, who we know have done a tremendous amount. They've been in the forefront, really, of caring for the land and restoring local waterways and the fish that so many of us have lost from our regions are coming back due to the work of the Indigenous communities. And tonight we're going to hear from people from the Ntamtqen Community Garden, another example of restoring the beauty and the bounty of this land that we're so lucky to live on. By the way, Ntamtqen Community Garden and Food Hub was featured recently in the Food Chain, the BBC's food broadcast. We're going to send you links to an episode so that you can listen yourself. And we'll send you some links in a follow-up little email that you'll get tomorrow that'll have some other newsletters about other Indigenous food sustainability projects that are going on in British Columbia. So you can just relax and enjoy the presentation. You don't need to worry too much about making notes because we'll send you a video which you can watch again or send to your friends, along with any of the topics and notes and links that people mentioned come up this evening. I'm going to pass things over to Sue Kirschman to introduce tonight's speaker.
Thank you, Margaret. Hi, everyone, and welcome to tonight's deep dive. Most of us take our food systems for granted. We expect to be able to buy pretty much anything in the grocery stores, and those who have gardens can usually count on decent growing conditions in the Okanagan. But there have been some hiccups in the last while. Droughts in California and other parts of the world have made some foods less available and more expensive. Supply chains were disrupted during COVID and again after the 2021 flooding of the Fraser Valley. And as you probably remember, there were some empty shelves from during both of these times. And during the cold snap we had 2 winters ago, plants were severely affected with most of the apricot, peach, and grape crops being completely wiped out in our valley. As a result, an increasing number of people are becoming aware of the need for greater food security. So what can we do? Well, getting our greenhouse gases under control so the climate won't continue to worsen is, of course, essential. But it is also important to build resilient food systems and promote agriculture that is local and sustainable. The Ntamtqen Community Garden and Food Hub near Cawston is a shining example of this. And First Things First Okanagan is very happy to welcome manager Dixon Terbasket and coordinator Hannah Field to tell us about this Lower Similkameen Indian Band community garden. They will share the vision of the garden, its history and success, growth and future goals of food sustainability for the Indigenous community. And as they're speaking, if you have any questions, please type them into the chat and we'll pose them to Dixon and Hannah afterwards in a little Q&A. So with that, I'll turn it over to you two, Dixon and Hannah. Thank you.
Never good to go. Hit the mic.
Yep, guidance.
It's bar. On the mark, get set, go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Why Haskell Squeeze Skullachen? Welcome to Ntamtqen Community Garden. Ntamtqen, the meaning of Ntamtqen is putting more than one house together. That meaning that we would join our lodges together. We'd gather as a community, and we'd gather here at the site close by where my house is presently located at. So that's where we came up with the Ntamtqen name for our garden. We're located in Cawston, BC, in the Similkameen Valley, and we been here. I've been here most of my life, so
Right to the next one.
Coben's in charge of.
Yeah.
Okay, next slide. First of all, I'd like you to meet the team. On the right, we have Speechin and Fox, and then the lovely Miss Colvin with the sunflowers that was missing from the introduction. She is our administrative assistant. She started off as a trainee and has moved up. She's been a wonderful part of our organization, one of the most talented young ladies that we got going here. She's like, wow, she got amazing. She put together this presentation for us. Off to the left, we have the community garden, Hannah Field. She's from the UK. She's been here for 2 years now. And she's the one that helps put together the vision, writing the proposals, keeping track of things, teaching COVID what to do, how to do it. And they're both amazing. I'm so happy to have these people, the young ladies, working with me in this particular project. And there myself is the garden manager, about ready to turn around and run or something by that photograph there. Yeah, so basically in Ntamtqen Garden, it says, next slide, please. I'm going to kind of run into this, got half an hour. So the history of the people of the garden. People believe that we were semi-nomadic, and we were semi-nomadic. We moved around the land, gathering food this time of year. The trout are up in the mountains. Chickalusa, Speetlam, and other roots are harvested on the south side of the American border. Um, and we had a very beautiful, strong, vibrant community. And then all of a sudden, the arrival of the settlers. That's when things kind of went started going sideways. They came here, they were unable to look after themselves, they were starving, they were cold, they were freezing, and they uh, they basically were survived by the help of our people, our elders, my ancestors that are gone now. What we have here below on here's the Ntamtqen, Sia, Stemkeist, and Speetlam. Those are our four food chiefs. And that goes back to a creation story that tells about how we came here to this land without claws, teeth, canines, or anything. We didn't have any hair, fur. So we're pretty helpless, but Stimkisi was wise and he asked all the other creatures in the land to look after us and help us. So that is one of our most connected parts of ourselves to the land. As we roll on and we go into it, the history of the community was even back in the 30s, 40s, and into the 50s. We were a very vibrant community where we were self-sustaining. We harvest, we had cattle, we had horses, we had gardens, we gathered food in the mountains, we harvested animals, ungulates to dry them. And there's some really interesting stories and pictures from my past, from my uncles and my grandfathers. The impacts of the Indian Act, the residential school, and the intergenerational trauma that we're still experiencing from time to time. That trauma pops up, goes on, and it's a real struggle for us. And we're slowly attempted to make things a better place for us. But, that was at the hands of this colonial government, how they systematically erased our language, our culture, our spirituality, and made us pretty much like Catholics and Christians. And that's still a struggle today within our community. We still have the Catholic, we have the Christians, and people believe it's well, we have more and more traditionalists coming back and starting to gather and grab the land and understand the land and ceremony and all these things. Farming on the land before the garden started. This land, particularly where the garden is right now, 7.5 acres, was farmed back in the 40s and 50s by a Chinese operation. They grew onions, potatoes, peppers, tomatoes. And then back in the 60s, 70s, we started growing hay crops, foliage for the cattle. And we had cattle, we had a beef operation, feedlots and stuff like that. And those things were developed by the milkmen in the community. We had a bunch of organic vegetables happen back in the 80s and 90s, but the bands, the Lower Similkameen Indian Band, started looking at organic opportunities and a business plan. They developed a small business plan for 2012. The organic farming was also in the comprehensive community plan, the CCP, in 2018. The Chief and Council Strategic Plan in 2019. The economic development was also part of that expansion. And the first external source of funding came Indigenous Agricultural Development, 2023. They give me $3,000. It was like, whoa, that's a lot of money for them. And so they actually started the consultation process because we're a community, we're on community land. We actually act through, and one of the big things about ISIS, the Indigenous ISK, Indigenous what?
Services Canada,
And
Indian
Service,
Affairs.
the Indian Affairs. They have all kinds of regulations and everything that kind of pertain to the reserve. They pretty much control everything still. If we were to go on economic development or with more money, we kind of skirted that. We kind of went along and we started doing Indigenous stuff. Then we start writing proposals. Next slide, please.
Wait, hang on. So just in terms of the history, you started community consultation in 2018, 2019?
2018, we started community consultation with that $3,000 from BC Agriculture
Indigenous Agricultural Development Program.
It was in
After
2018.
that was 2021, you got the money.
Yeah, the first time. It took us that long to get that money. So
Yeah.
it was like pulling teeth.
Yeah. And then I showed up 2023, which was when you had just built the pump house for the main line. And then all the infrastructure and everything really started to get built in September 2023.
Yeah. Next slide. Okay, there you go. Here's the quote given to us by a non-Indigenous volunteer.
Yeah, so something I want to share with everyone is how powerfully I could feel the reciprocal relationship with the land. I've heard it described by many Indigenous people before, and I've had glimpses of understanding, but to be there and see what your collective is doing was a transformative experience. The earth radiated with a spiritual warmth and gratitude.
That was the young person that wanted to remain anonymous.
Go to the next one.
So you get the Indigenous food security and sovereignty, remembering who we are and how we lived in the community. It's those are the things that, remembering who we are, rooted in the land. We have a picture of us harvesting potatoes. We have a Ntamtqen. He came to the backyard. First year Hannah was here, and he was sitting there at the table wanting to have something to eat. He's actually eating that whole box of pears that's behind him. And off to the side here, water is life. That's my mother sitting down there, and the people gathered around. We're having a water ceremony. And how we work in context of a interconnected crisis, ecological climate change, and health. And not to mention the intellectual property rights that, everybody kind of gets, and I'm hoping that you folks don't lean into the intellectual property rights and claim things that aren't yours and share things. It happens a lot in this world where we have pretendians and all these other things happening, and people are wanting to be beneficent through all the Indian Affairs. ISIS is criteria of indigenous, who you are, your relationships, and all these new things that are happening. But intellectual property rights, what is this a concern about, this information here, even the pictures that we're sharing with you, and like Stimkey sitting there. And so when we talk about ecological climate and health, I've been here in my land for probably most all my life, in my 60s now, and I've seen it gradually changing, shifting. Vegetation is changing, water levels are changing. The river should be raging right now, and I can barely see it over my shoulder. The water's there. So the flooding that you talked about, happening. We've had floods here in 1995 that were in November. We've had floods at different times of the year, snow melt impacts. I just came from a forestry meeting. We're talking about ecological management. We're doing a really terrible job. Forestry, just cut and grab, and the fires that are happening. Most of the timber here in the area behind my mountains, here in the west side of the Similkameen River, I'd say 80% of it's burnt off. There's no more timber values to it. It's burnt. We have a lot of charred land. We're experiencing mudslides across the river, up the mountains on the west side of Snowy Mountain. We're all burnt off. So those are the kind of things that are happening. So we're trying to address those through right now. There's a thing called the I can't even remember the acronym about what I'm going to this meeting. It's forestry land planning, about how do we change things? How do we do the silviculture prescriptions? That's just one of the aspects. We have mining. We have the Copper Mountain mine up the river. We have 140 years of placer mining here in the Similkameen gold mining. We have holes. We have leaching from Mascot mine, and a whole list of things. And how do we address that with economics and everything? So I guess we're standing off to the side, say, well, let's just grow some food and let's not worry about it. Let's hope that we have food and have a place where our people can at least get some good food. Next slide. So this is some of the product that happened around here. Top left is apricots or peaches. Apricots and peaches. And then we have dried apricots. And we had our first kick at making swen, the orange side, the fish on the right side is swen. It's dried salmon. And then what's that down there?
That's blue elderberries.
Blue elderberry,
Swisham.
and huckleberries, and salmon. Yeah, and the big salmon, the king salmon there. So yeah, that's some of the things that we have access to right now. Next slide. Here's the vision. We'll let you go for a little flyover. There's the garden that's coming up. Go ahead.
It's going.
It's going. So this is our garden last year. And it was just an attempt to do it. We did some experimental. We did that middle section coming up was all without any kind of plastic, or was all done by weeding on the right side. That's our foundation for our building, our greenhouses. So kind of a little flyover of the village of Ntamtqen. It's turning into quite a little village.
Yeah, the whole site is 7.5 acres. And there's probably, would you say, about an acre on the infrastructure side?
Yeah.
Or a couple of acres?
Yeah, about an acre and a bit.
Acre and a bit, yeah. And then cultivation, we've expanded this year to the left of where you can see on the image there, up the hill. So we've planted about 1.5 acres of potatoes, and we'll talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so we're trying a bunch of different new things here. We still haven't got the operational greenhouse. We have the small little greenhouse that's in the top right-hand corner above the big greenhouse, but we're short of money to get, everything costs money to install. The little greenhouse isn't even there in this
It's not
particular point.
covered, it's there.
Is it there?
Yeah, the frame's there. It's
But,
covered now.
we're just like you get a little bit of money. These grants and everything they're writing, they don't allow us really for labor stuff, paying people's jobs and stuff. So we've been able to be really creative, and the volunteers have helped us. We had people volunteer put that big greenhouse cover on, and so
Mhm.
yeah, we're utilizing all avenues of development. You can see our tomatoes, our watermelons, our pumpkins, our
Mhm.
strawberries,
Tobacco.
tobacco. Maybe we should be making tobacco and growing it and rolling it or something. Individualized. So,
Can we go to the
to
next?
cultivate a thriving, resilient community empowered by sustainable food and culture viability,
Vitality.
viality, we envision a future where every individual has access to nutritious, locally sourced food, fostering health, well-being, and cultural pride. Yeah, so that's one of the big things. It's about the cultural pride. It's like, I guess the folks that are here with us, um, they're happy. They go through life and everything else. Our community is very busy with all the things that are ongoing within the community. The National Park, the Stony Mountain Protected Area, the SP Similkameen Protected Area up the Ashinola. All these things are really happening right now, and it's like I'm going to see what happens. It'd be interesting to see how people react to us. Next slide, please. So we would like to talk about garden updates. Like we're moving along here quite well. We did do a big production on Tea Creek over at Venables Theater last November or sometimes back then, and
Yep.
we went up to Tea Creek and we visited Jacob and Jessica and their children, and they were putting together a little showing us what they do as a training model and being innovative and trying to get people working and work ready. So we took on a little bit of their program as a pilot project here at Ntamtqen Gardens, and the Tea Creek training model. We visited them. We been having work parties. Excuse me. We had
Yeah, work parties. So our first big one was in April with the Young Agrarians. That's actually our third one with them. They first showed up. Mickey Hunter, she's been amazing. In the Young Agrarians with us, and she brought a big group of people in the fall 2023, and then in the spring 2024, and then we had another one just in middle of April this year, and there was 35 people on the Saturday, 25 on the Sunday, and they're the ones who planted our orchard with us and cut all the potatoes and planted like an acre and a half of potatoes in the garden. And so having these big groups of people, our job becomes looking after them, making sure they're busy, got enough to do, and everything like that, rather than doing the work. But it means that we can get these big jobs done. And the trellis you see in the bottom left-hand photo, that was built by another big group that came from Saskatchewan. They were a group of kind of farmers, and there was 45 people, including lots of young people, and they built our trellis for us and did a bunch of weeding and lots of things that just take many hands and uh, a lot of effort that we just wouldn't be able to do without all this amazing help. Um, and yeah, we've been attending and hosting lots of community events. So Coven, you can see there with our booth, that's a CD Saturday in Cawston. Top right is the Nations to Nations gathering we had recently. Laurie came along to that, and we had the bear dances. So there was ceremony, there was people singing and sharing their culture from South Africa, from Ecuador, and lots of, yeah, Sweden, lots of places all around the world. So that just happened at the beginning of May. So we're getting more requests to share what we do, and people want to come and help us, which is amazing, and people are really welcome to come. Um, yeah, and so that's taken up quite a lot of our time, just kind of talking to people and sharing what we do whilst we're also doing these major infrastructure developments. And the middle photo there, that's our greenhouse. Thank you to Community Foundation South Okanagan Similkameen. They gave us a grant to do the internals of our greenhouses basically. So put the heaters in, put the fans in, do the lights for the seed starts. There's heating cables in those trays you can see. So we did all of that in the spring. We planted a new orchard. We've been planting onions, and there's a good garlic patch out there. The potatoes I mentioned, some lettuce, and we're just getting ready to seed carrots and turnips and get on with all of that kind of thing. In the bottom right, we're also kind of inspired by the Tea Creek and the importance of the variety of skills you need to be a farmer. We put on two weekend workshops in carpentry, which were free to attend. And this really helped do our site office, which we're hoping to move into, and we're looking for donations for the office currently, but I'll talk a bit more about that, or it's on our Facebook page as well. But yeah, that's just some of the stuff we've been doing so far.
Excellent. And 8 minutes left. So the aims and objectives for 2025-26. Infrastructure. That middle photograph, it's us. They were giving this landowner up in Kirmuse. They said, "Hey, I got a chicken house for you." We thought with this little box, maybe 12 by 12. We get there and it's 36 by 28 feet and it has trusses, it's elevation. So we had quite the project there, uh, taking that apart. But we do have we do have the material on site here at Ntamtqen. And basically, one of the big major project we're going right now is the processing building to lock up. We're going to start. We're installing some of the plumbing, the sewer system tomorrow morning, so we're getting excited about that. We have the foundation installed already, and we're going to start figuring out how this septic system we're going to design and put it together. That's quite the project. It's a 30 by 60. It's a two-story building at 40 feet. We're going to be, so the top floor will be 30 by 40. The bottom floor will be 30 by 60. We have a kitchen that's attachment wing to that's 30 feet. So, and then we have to build a place for a walk-in freezer. This particular building, I think it comes with, we're going to put a cooler, like a cooler, because we planted orchards, so we intend to having a place where we can store orchards. It's the middle lower picture in the middle there. And so we're looking at other things and ways that we can maybe become viable where we can actually create an income. Right now, this small sizes garden, it's not really going to create $100,000 worth of products off of it. It'll grow a lot of produce, but it won't be making a lot of profit with it. So completion of the site office, like Hannah said, we had a training course there, and it's quite. I was really impressed with how it turned out so far. We have the chicken house coop reconstruction. The middle pictures of us taking it apart, and then we we went from there, and we have we're talking about we actually have a slash part-time volunteer kind of helping us look at a native plant nursery here, as might become an interesting arm for restoration, climate adjustments, replanting vegetation, changing the silviculture prescription on forestry. It's a real interesting part. That's why I'm on the Forest Land Planning Committee, is that I see an opportunity where we can integrate with the forest, where we need to have our animals, where we can plant swishum, sea, all the other medicinal plants and the food places for the animals and for ourselves. So the native plant nursery, that's something we're really looking at. We're trying to fundraise to get some money for that one for sure. We got a couple sources, but we haven't got anybody committed to supporting us yet, but we're working on it. We planted a new orchard. I think we have about 156 trees. Some of them didn't make it. They're peach trees. They struggled and I passed on. But I think there's 156 trees. There's 13 varieties. So we just didn't plant galas or ambrosias or anything. It's like a whole mixture of transparents, two kinds of Macs, New York Mac, Summerland Mac,
Wines.
Wine Saps, Goldens,
Spartan.
Red Delicious,
Spartan.
Transparent,
Spartan.
Hugos, Spartans,
News. Big old.
Big Gold. So going to be, it's not going to be just what we're able to go out there and have a whole selection of apples at the food garden. And then the successful expansion of the cultivated areas and crops. We kind of got carried away. We started planting bigger and bigger plants. And as usual, so we're trying to do it so that it becomes just manageable. We're going to have pumpkin patch, squash patch, potato patch, tomato patch, all these things with some really beautiful raspberries that are happening. It's like, wow. We're doing fundraising and for the construction of a root cellar right now. Harvest and distributing of the food. We're looking at how the methodology and what are the vehicles, what are the things that are available for us to distribute food here in the valley. One part of our reserve down there is 25 to that end, and the other side up the here is about 25. So we're kind of in the middle of the two reserves, 50 kilometers between the two villages. And the community care me. So harvesting and distribution of food, building our network and partnerships. So here we are, Okanagan first, talking to people. We've been developing training programs. We're looking for people that could help us develop the training package. So we have a 4 weeks training session. So maybe we do a little bit of electrician. Maybe we teach them how to take a chainsaw apart, fix the rototiller, fix the weed ear, those kind of things we're looking at.
Write grants.
And pardon me?
How to write grants.
And most important, how to write grants. So that's what we're doing. Next slide. Are we almost there? Because we've got 3 minutes. Here we go.
Just a quick run through this.
Here's the site plan. So you think it's an ambitious project? Well, it is. It's a very ambitious project. We started off with just this little wee project, and then it just kind of what the trouble was, they give us 7.5 acres, and there was nothing on it. There was nothing. There was just like, oh, just like you're going to be a famous artist. I start drawing things, pounding stakes into the ground and walking around and looking at it and trying to have a vision. By cracky, I had a vision. And this is it. This is the one right here. This is what I started in the 80s, and it's fun. 2025, it's now just starting to happen. That's because of all the regulations. That's about all the colonialist people that pushed us down, held us down. Wouldn't this house I'm in right now is owned by the king, the crown, so to say. So there's all these things that need to be straightened on the reserve itself. And the land, like, it's all about the land. It's all about the settlers that are occupying their land. They still haven't paid for it. I've been waiting for payment for the ranch and Cawston up here on the reserve. Nobody's ever come and said, "Hey, here, Dix, we'll give you some money, pay you out for your land." And so, one of the things is that's one of the bees in the bonnets for me is about all the rhetoric and the marginalization that happens, and when you're privileged, many of you are probably privileged, inequality feels like oppression to you. It's like sharing. There's so much people that don't want to do that. So being privileged and having access to all the things and everything, it's like I really have to bite my tongue, and I try to be as gentle as I can with the settlers, and not to be too offensive, but sometimes it really just irks me. I just, it's like the people in control of this government, and how all of a sudden now I am in a conservative riding, and we got these idiotic people in Kelowna saying these stupid ass things about how we're taking the land. So I guess it's always been about the land, and I guess it's always going to be about the land. Limlin, look at that, 30 minutes and 10 seconds.
Yeah, just
Okay.
you want to do it?
You go ahead.
Okay. So how you can help, just a real quick, a few ideas. So donations, Coven's just set up a donations tab on our website. So there's a page on there. You can find out info on how to help us if that's how you'd like to help. Really grateful for anything. Donations of resources. People have been dropping off pots and tools. So any garden tools, office supplies. There's a list on our Instagram, our Facebook, and on the website. Yeah. Any building and construction supplies, kind of anything we do. You can see the huge range of work we do. And not only is there the front end of the farm, there's also the back end, me and Coven working in the office and doing all those kinds of things too. And that kind of is reflected in the volunteering opportunities. So any help with I don't know, administrative skills or grant skills, trying to figure out how that works. But that's an opportunity, or yeah, all the sorts of farming skills, mechanicking, construction. The list is kind of endless. Let your imagination run wild. So you can email us at Ntamtqen Community Garden at lsib.net, and I think it's going to be shared after this webinar too.
And one of my biggest questions to every individual that comes to the farm, what are you good at? What kind of skills do you have? Are they any benefit to a farm? And most people are amazing. I've got a garden architect coming next week.
Landscape architect,
Landscape architect coming. We got a guy in China that's doing a landscape architect for us too. So I guess it's question and answer time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. We do have a few questions, and I have some too. Somebody was asking about compost, and if you maybe you have fantastic soil, or maybe you need to work on fertilizing it. How are you working on that? And what kind of condition is the soils in your area?
Well, it's the farm itself hasn't been in operation. This ground's been laying dormant for about 20 years now. And I decided, well, I'm just going to start using it, and went ahead and got a letter. And we have a compost pile, we have a big manure pile. We still would really love assistance on developing a composting facility so that there'd be water. We have the piece of equipment that could turn it, rotate it. Looking at possibly, we have one of our volunteers is talking about doing buying a big water tank and then just making tea and doing those kind of things. We did the mesmerized. What is it? Mesmerized?
Mazzy?
The Mazzy. We developed the Mazzy last year. We did some organic fertilizers through the system. That was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and we've got a volunteer, hopefully she won't mind me saying her name, Jeanette, who's organised soil sampling for us. Both the kind of more lab-based tests, but then also looking at the soil food web. So we'll get some results from that and understand the soils a bit more.
There's someone that's wondering if you are bringing an Indigenous perspective to gardening itself, to growing methods. Would you say that there's any integration of cultural practice in the garden that would make it different than a garden 5 kilometers down the road?
Well, the one photograph I forgot to mention is that, well, we did have a water ceremony, but we also had the children come from the school and come here and put tobacco down and pray for the land and do those things. And I've always been lucky to be able to have enough land to do a crop rotation, like to move the plants around so that you're not growing the same thing there. We'll probably get more into fall rise and ligaments this fall after we get done here. So we'll be looking more in depth into what's available, in California, the cowpeas, the ligaments out down there, different vegetation that gather nitrogen to decompose quickly in the soil. So we're looking at still need help.
Yeah.
It's like somebody that's a master composter a design of my friend up in Barrier. He has these old composting facility, and it's really unique. It's inside of a concrete thing, has drains. It has underneath the underneath the tanks. It has a collecting tank where all the drainage comes from there, goes back into that, goes into another tank, sits there, and kind of they aerate it and create some microorganisms happening in it. So, but as far as the traditional growing, it's like respecting the land, giving it a rest, not overusing, not spraying chemicals onto it, not doing any of that kind of stuff. It's like that we can't have that here. It's like just try to keep it as natural as we can. And I've been a ground cropper here. Cow manure. We got access to a big source of it about a couple of kilometers away from us, and that seems to work really well. But it has to be put on every year in a rotation system. So that's how I see it. I don't see how indigenized them other than me driving the tractor and me out there with the hoe and my brother Steve and us Indian guys out there. I guess about as indigenous as we're going to get.
Yeah, you'll get indigenized here if you spend long enough.
You mentioned having the school children come. The young people are our next generation of farmers. Someone has asked, any tips for getting the youth interested and excited in working in the gardens?
Oh, it's like we got to become good aunties, good uncles. We need to be good grandmothers and good grandfathers. We need to set boundaries for our children. We need to give them that experience when they're young and vulnerable to excitement of a tractor or watching something grow. That's what I see. I think that, we're kind of in this so easy part of our life where we get our protein so quickly, so easily from the supermarkets and places like that, that people don't even know where they get their fried chicken from. They don't get any of that stuff. It's like, you get bloody, you got to kill the chicken, you got to feed it, you got to do all these things. And I think bringing children down, it's like to the farm here because the school's just across the road. We just talked to the principal today and asked why aren't you bringing your children down here? We want you bring your kids down. So we'll hopefully be able to start working more closely with the school. There must have been about 40 kids there in that grade 1 to 4 or 7. They're that school.
1 to 7, I think.
So I think that's one of the ways we have to do it. We got to get the Xboxes out of there. We got to get away from that and actually make it, I guess, rewarding and I guess fun and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to do it when they're young.
Well, you say that, but we've also got Coven, who's changed her life around
Mhm. It's true.
later. So, Cove, I don't want to speak for you, but she came to us from a very different lifestyle. So, hope is there for the slightly older young people too.
I think it's mainly about just realizing how much of a blessing it is to be on the land and reconnecting. I've never been with this way of life my whole life because I moved down to the States at a very young age with my mom. And this is my home. I was born in Penticton out of Headley. And Blind Creek Reserve, which is about 5 minutes from here, is my home now. And I just moved back within a year ago. It's all about just reconnecting and realizing what it looks like to be able to grow life and grow yourself along with it. As far as the youth, it's going to take a lot of outreach because living in villages like this, they're pretty well endowed in their community and they don't really get out of that. So to actually make this like a communal place like it's supposed to be, I think it's going to take us outreaching to these kids and these kids programs that the band either puts on or the public school district puts on, and making ourselves present and aware, putting ourselves out there like we have been, just to get an image out there and to tell people our mission and our vision and encourage people that this is bigger than all of us. It's a truly bigger picture.
Thank you for sharing that, Coven. That really brings it all home. And actually, that fits in with the next question, which is maybe you could speak a little bit about how you distribute the food and whether is this a business enterprise or a social enterprise, or is it maybe it's everything and or more? So please go into
Well,
that.
well, that's the difficulty of trying to maintain equality, and at the same time we have one family that's we know that don't have food steady income. They don't have an income coming in. So how do you balance between the people that are making six figures or 60 to 80,000 dollars a year and the person that's making $20,000 a year? So do we give it to the poor people and give it to the rich people? That's the struggle. It's basically we've been just giving it away because it's a social ethical thing inside of your own brain. It's like you have a job. Why can't you just come contribute or do something? Part of me tells me that. And then the other part of it is, well, okay, well, I'm just going to give the food away and then just see who comes. It's real interesting who shows up. That's one of the most interesting things. The poor people aren't going to come and ask you. It's the rich people that are going to come there for free. This it's really strange. But sad but true.
Mm.
And it's heartbreaking. So we have to figure out a way that, what does the band have to offer as far as vehicles, distribution? We had the social department just dropping off a bunch of food from the local grocery store uptown, damaged and almost expired food. So we give that away. So that's free. Our food last year, we did it by just giving it away. After a while, we had so many watermelons, we were just giving them away and
By the truckload.
by the truckloads. And so we're gonna probably try by donation. I think one of the way, if you feel like, even if you only got a toonie, just toss a toonie in there, right? You can take 100 pounds of potatoes if that's what you need, right? And that's the struggle as human beings, right? I think one of the big struggle is, you got this
Mm.
parity this way, you got that parity that way, but economy and scale. So
Mm.
most of the time it's just levers here. Even though you know this person has a job and does all that stuff, you give it to them too, right? You give it to the poor people too. And just
Yeah.
gotta just block it out of your mind that, I can't be selective on who gets the food. If we're going to give it away,
Mm.
part of it, the expansion part about it will become an economic wheel where there'd be that part that's commercially grown. It's like not so much to be an organic commercially grown product, but
Well, it's the processing
the
facilities that do
processing facility, we got a processing field. We'll be able to fill up jars of these like this with tomatoes, peppers, whatever, watermelon juice.
So that will be kitchen rentals will be one way for us to make some money. And again, at a scale for community organizations less, or in a trade and barter system. Um, but building a circular economy essentially and having a fruit stand and all these kinds of things are in the long-term vision. So we're building a business plan ongoing. We have been for like the last year and a half, just as we come up with new ideas and need to involve lots of things and getting people to like come here to pay to learn from Dixon, for instance, who for like those who can afford it, and having all these. So it's like everything, all the things, and piecing it all together, I think.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's hard to answer.
I
So
don't know
basically,
how I don't know how the three of you get any sleep with just I can see a million ideas circulating in your head about the
what's been
different.
going 100 miles an hour so we go just
Yeah.
let's go to sleep.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing some of the ideas, some of the directions that you're hoping to take the garden in the coming years. And I can't wait to talk to you next year and the year after to hear where you've gone and where you're going. I'm going to pass things over to Sue just to kind of wrap things up. But again, thank you so much for sharing uh, this very exciting food hub for the Cawston area that I'm sure is going to set an example for many more communities as well.
Yeah, I echo Margaret's sentiments, and I'm looking forward to coming down and seeing you sometime. I'm just going to mention a couple of events that are coming up. One important one is tomorrow. First things first is taking part in the Meadowlark Festival again. And we're having an event. We partnered with Noble Ridge Winery, doing a tour on climate resiliency in the vineyard and beyond. And there are a few tickets left. So if anyone is going to be in the area, is at 10 o'clock till noon tomorrow morning. And you can look on our website or on the Meadowlark website to register. Our next Views and Tales Club meeting will be Tuesday, May 27th, 7 till 8:30. And this is in Penticton at the Oasis Church. You can check out our website for more information about that. The topic will be Mard Barlow will be interviewed, so it's going to be a video about the global water crisis. And then there will be a discussion after that. And the last item I have is our next deep dive, which will be the last one before we take a break for the summer. That will be June 19th, a Thursday, and it's on permaculture. Kenton Zerbin is a permaculture educator, designer, and an advocate for regenerative living. And he teaches people how to build efficient homes, thriving landscapes, and resilient communities. It sounds quite interesting. You can check on our website, or if you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get information about that in early June. I don't have anything else to mention unless Margaret or Laurie do.
Just to remind you to check your inbox. Lori will be putting together a very comprehensive list of resources from tonight and links to learn more about this project and also the Tea Creek project that was mentioned. So thank you so much, Coven, Hannah, Dixon, for sharing this evening with us.
Yeah, we did
Feel
that
free to
really
turn
well.
on your sound, everybody, and your video, and let's give a thank you wave and hands raised for the
Lim Lim.
And that,
Yeah.
and I do want to mention that we will be organizing work parties, carpooling, going out to Ntamtqen, and we'll be in touch with people who said that they would like to come and volunteer. And if you're interested and didn't choose that, send us an email. I put the email, well, you get the email. And let us know if you want to be part of a work group. I did it a couple of weeks ago and it was great fun. It's really beautiful, very interesting, and you can see how big the space is and how much people need, how they need people to come out and help. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Limlet.
Right.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.